Morning, everyone. This is Dan Way, the Department of State Treasurer, and welcome to the August 2021 edition of Ask Me Anything, the Treasurer's monthly teleconference with reporters. We give you the chance to ask him anything that's on your mind, and he'll tell you what's on his. So we got a lot going on, and without further ado, we'll have the Treasurer give his opening remarks.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you all for joining us today. As you know, this is our monthly Ask Me Anything call. We just got out of the Council of State meeting, and Tuesdays are a busy day for us as we now work toward our local government commission meeting this afternoon. We continue to watch the pennies and the paper clips at the Treasurer's office. The pension plan's over right at $122 billion right now. We just paid out $540 million in gross amount in monthly benefits. We just signed off the Council of State this morning on some Garvey bonds, which we've been in consultation with the Department of Transportation to get those issued, and with the Secretary of Transportation, and continue to work on other things that impact North Carolina. So with that, I'll be glad to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Treasurer. I think we might have some first-time callers on the line, so just to set out some ground rules, there really aren't any. It's a pretty freewheeling discussion. You can ask whatever's on your mind. All we do request is that you give us your name and the media outlet you're with, so that if we have any need to send you further information, we can do that. So there's no specific order. Whoever wants to jump in there and start the questioning, go ahead.
Hey, this is Ashley Talley from WRAL. I wondered if you could give us an update on the County Spring Lake and where that stands and what happens from here.
Thank you, Ashley. Spring Lake is a town that, for others on the call, that's geographically between Fort Bragg, Fayetteville, and Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen. And Spring Lake has been through many fits and starts financially over the last several years. I think before I was the treasurer, the state auditor had done a pretty massive report about shortcomings and their inability to reconcile the books in 2016. Where we are now is that the state auditor, who I obviously don't speak for, but has had Spring Lake under investigation. She's talked about that in a public meeting. Part of that process resulted in Spring Lake being closed for a number of days so that the local government commission, but mainly the auditor's office, as well as the team that's on the ground, could make sure that they secured documents. Spring Lake has now been reopened for business, but the investigation, the breadth and the depth of this investigation continues.
You have a follow-up, Ashley?
I guess, do you have any timeline on when, so would the next step be that the state auditor's office would release its findings? Is that what happens before the state decides whether they would take over the finances of the town?
Great question. The next thing that you should be listening out for is the findings and the official investigation or preliminary investigation of the state auditor. And I want to say this once, and I'll say it 3 times if I need to. It's never our desire to take over the finances of any town. It's just that some situations require that. We hope that as a result of us working with the League of Municipalities and the auditor's office and the interim team that's on the ground, that they can do like a Hosky did over the last 6 years. Figure out what's right, get it right, and keep it right on behalf of the citizens and the taxpayers. And that's where we would like for it to go. And we have all hope that that can happen in this situation. I will add to that this is a serious situation on many fronts, but mainly on behalf of those fixed and lower income individuals and taxpayers of Spring Lake, because property taxes are proportionally a larger part of their income than anyone else's. Their need for essential services is like anybody else's. So, to be paying property tax into a town where they can't reconcile the books or get the audits together is a serious concern. And that's what we're all working toward.
One last question.
Yeah.
If any criminal charges were to be filed, would that come after the auditor's report and be handled by the Attorney General's office, I imagine?
Thank you for your question. My preliminary answer would be that it's been my experience in the past, not specifically the Spring Lake situation, that if there are criminal charges that need to be filed, those are things that are discussed directly between the state auditor's office and whatever district attorney has jurisdiction in that particular case. And the other, and then of course that sets off a whole nother round of topics, especially if any of these, if charges were to be filed, if a person were to be found guilty of certain felonies within their public service duties, then that sets off another part of our statute that we've been enforcing, unfortunately more than ever before, which is the felony forfeiture statute regarding the pension. And but I want to repeat for you and anyone else on the call that control of Spring Lake's destiny still falls into the hands of the Board of Aldermen and the mayor of that community. And they have every opportunity to figure out what's right, get it right, and keep it right, and we're going to help them do that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you answering my question.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley.
Appreciate that, Ashley. Someone have another question for the treasurer?
Yeah, I do. Hi, Treasurer Folwell. This is Abby Church with the Fayetteville Observer. I wanted to piggyback off the response you just gave to Ashley. I spoke with the town manager over in Ahoskie this morning, and he said that one of the keys to them getting back into a good financial situation is getting all of the elected officials on board. And he said that they've been very willing to come in and say, like, we really, really need to fix this. And I was wondering if you guys have seen that same type of reaction from Spring Lake leadership.
We are regarding that type of reaction from the Spring Lake leadership. We're always hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. And these resolutions that we've been passing to get them within the guardrails of their budget, for example, a few weeks ago, or the most recent one, those are not just something we dream up. These are not premonitions. This is where we have gotten information or gathered information that this Board of Aldermen may want to go in a different direction. And so in all these instances, we're just responding to what we're hearing, so that if something like that were to occur, and that we would have the ability to take more of an active role.
Right.
And
you said earlier that what was it? The town hall shut down. That was in order for them to go in and secure some documents. Why would that take 2 weeks?
Okay, why did it take 2 weeks?
Yeah, I know you can't speak on behalf of the auditor's office, but that length of time period seems a little long for the things that they need to be doing, like in terms of securing the documents.
Was it closed 2 whole business weeks? Or was it 10 days, 10 business days? I mean, 8 business days. Anyway, it was about of a period of 2 weeks. So I agree with you, Abby. I don't know. I just think that in some respects, it's when you're involved in something like this, it's a little bit of a scavenger hunt, and as not to be related to Spring Lake, and please don't connect the two, but as you've all read stories this week about documents of a city that they found buried. Did Abby, are you familiar with that one?
No, this is the first time I'm hearing about that.
Is it Lucam? What's it, Sam? Lucama? Lucama. So there's a story out in statewide press about Lucama finding a lot of city documents that were buried behind City Hall. And so that I'm not applying that to Spring Lake, but that just gives you an idea of how important it is to secure documents and how important and difficult it is.
All right, guys. I think that's all the questions I had. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Abby, thank you for calling Ahoskie, and I hope they were proud of the fact that we're saying good things about them because they deserve it.
Open up for some more questions.
Should I do a follow-up?
Yes.
Hey, this is Dave Miltenberg down in Charlotte, North Carolina. I just want to follow up on that Spring Lake question. I misunderstood the current status. Who is in charge right now?
Who's in charge right now is the mayor, the board of aldermen, but there is a team that's been sent in there of finance director and others that are in there working in conjunction with the local government commission and the state auditor's office. Well, let's put these in priority. Who are working with the state auditor's office, 1, local government commission 2, and the League of Municipalities 3.
Yeah. So it's Auditor Wood is kind of like the figure, the key figure here, and your role as chairman of the LGC is, to kind of wait see what happens there.
Exactly right. And, our responsibility was to get them to sign off on a fiscal accountability agreement, which they did. And then obviously the auditor has a whole different set of functions and responsibilities.
Okay, well, have you met with Mayor Dobbins yourself?
No.
Could we move on? This morning you mentioned that the council stated that, what you view as an employment crisis in the state is, too many businesses can't find workers. Did you have any, specifics that you think we ought to be doing as a state? You mentioned kind of having a discussion with the governor, which he didn't want to do this morning. But is there anything specific that you think really needs to happen quickly?
Yeah, I think what is happening is that people read in your great publication about the unemployment rate. What's not said when that rate is given is that unemployment rate only factors in people who are able, available, and seeking employment. And so when people hear that we have a low unemployment rate, then they start to conceptualize, and how could we have an employment crisis if we have a low unemployment rate? And the fact is that there's a huge disconnect, as you know, around Charlotte, Winston-Salem, or Raleigh, or any corner of North Carolina, where there's a gap between employees and employers. And at the end of the day, I was just this morning trying to sound the alarm that we cannot be in a situation where we're collecting money and taxes from employers and paying people not to work, because at the end of the day, everyone who advertises in Business NC understands that without employees, they can't operate. And I would make that same application to the state itself. That's true of the treasurer's office, the labor commissioner's office, the governor's office. I mean, we can't do the functions of state government without workers. And we need to make sure that these incentives are in line. And as Governor Martin always tells us, doing right's rarely wrong. And I think that given where we are, where we have an employment crisis in North Carolina, for these federal unemployment benefits to expire, can bring certainty to the businesses who have just been through the most volatile period of the modern era.
So, I mean, the Secretary Troxler said, hey, small business people are telling him that they can't find people because they're, sitting home getting paid by stimulus funds. And, the governor said that's going to go away in 3 months or 3 weeks, and we're going to be back to what he called very stingy North Carolina unemployment benefits. So, where do you sit on that? Do you think, it's time to boost those benefits, or?
Well, the decision to boost the benefits is a decision, obviously, between the governor and the legislature, and it's not within my role. What I will tell you is that for the governor to say today that these benefits are going to be rolling off in a few weeks, I think brings a lot of certainty to any of the business groups who may have been listening to that.
Help me understand that. I lost it. What do you mean?
The governor said that, as I attempted to put this on the agenda today, to talk about the employment crisis in North Carolina, not the unemployment crisis, the employment crisis. As I attempted to discuss that today, the governor said that, in just 2 or 3 weeks, that this benefit will be expiring anyway. And
right.
So that was an indication to me and to everybody who was listening in that room that he has no intention of whatever means he has to extend those benefits.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. That's really helpful.
I just want to say one more thing, Dave, because we worked together a long time. To have an unemployment rate that only counts those that are able, available, and seeking employment is almost as bizarre as having an inflation rate that does not count food, energy, and housing.
Yeah. Do you look at this, your travels around the state, as being, anything but rural-urban divide in terms of the lack of workers, or is it everywhere?
It's absolutely everywhere, and I've got wheels, and I like riding my wheels, and I see a lot of different corners of North Carolina, and this is true everywhere. When you go down a road, and on one side the sign says, "We hire immediately," not "We're hiring" or "Help wanted." We hire immediately. Now, Dave, I think I'm a little older than you are. I don't think you've ever seen that in your lifetime. I've never seen that in my lifetime. We hire immediately. And then you go down the road just a little bit more, and on the left-hand side it says, "If your service is slow, please don't blame the people who chose to come to work today." And that's why we're seeing these hiring bonuses, going on across the state. And this is, at the end of the day, going back to your the purpose of your publication, this has the potential of being highly inflationary. And we know that when you have inflation, the people that get hurt the worst are lower and fixed income individuals.
Yeah. Hey, one other area I was going to ask you about, you talked about the DOT. There was talk at the Council State this morning about the DOT financial situation. I missed a lot of that. Could you summarize what you said about where you think things sit compared to a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, we put out a press release recently applauding Secretary and the DOT about the work they've done to figure out what's right, get it right, and keep it right. And I reported the cash report, which comes out every week, that showed the DOT had $2.5 billion in cash and bond proceeds. They have had reserves of $600 million. They have unreserved cash of $5 billion. That is more than the state debt. And more importantly, they are making journal entries to replenish the Highway Trust Fund for the first time since I've been the state treasurer.
And can you explain to us laymen where that money's coming from? Is it because of a really robust gas tax? People are paying into the tax, or what's going on?
I think it's a combination of pennies and paper clips, focusing on the revenue that they're supposed to collect, and there's more revenue that because of the increased robustness of our economy. And I think they're being more what's the word? More conscious. Anyway, you know how to type it. So, of I already had trouble with that word, but conscious of their bidletting, and I think that's what's put them in this situation. And everybody in this state, no matter what political party they're a member of, wants a solvent and sustainable Department of Transportation.
Well, just one follow-up, and I'll get out of here. You mentioned bid letting. The CEO of Martin Herrera had a conference call this week, and I don't have the exact figure in my head, but he was praising NCDOT for how it has rebounded, as you said. And he mentioned, I think the number was $2.5 billion in bid letting in the last year. Does that sound about right in your understanding, which he said was just a really robust amount of money that they expect to benefit from?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that gentleman, but I presume he's in the business of selling rock. So I don't know what numbers he's using. I just know that the secretary is working and as hard as he can, and he and I have telephone conversations, which never existed before. For example, when we just got approval for these Garvey bonds today, he called me a few weeks ago and said, we're going to reduce the amount that we're asking for because of something called mill and fill. And because we really want to shift some of that money toward, construction and repair, not mill and fill where they mill up the road and they fill it back in. And, that's the type of communication that I've always desired for the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And I'm sure that's the level of communication that the state auditor has always desired in addition, who ended up being the, as far as her audit, the bookend of what I was saying, 3.5 years ago.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. We've got plenty of time for more questions. Is there anyone else on the line who would like to ask the treasurer something? Well, we're ready. If not, we'll go ahead and have the treasurer give his closing remarks.
Well, thank you. At the council state meeting today, I gave an example of a person who went to Taco Bell and ordered $100 worth of food, and the cashier said, would that be for here or to go? And the person said, well, you don't think I'm going to eat all that here, do you? And the cashier appropriately said, well, I don't know your life. And my reason for bringing that up is that there's so much going on in the North Carolina economy right now that we don't know, we don't know the lives of all the business people, but we do know that every race, creed, and color of business owners across North Carolina are saying something about the employment crisis and asking the question, how can we continue to pay into the employment system that that we end up competing against for benefit. And by taxing workers and using money that comes from the taxes of workers to pay for those that aren't working. And so my point of just wrapping it up by saying this is that we have to make sure that we're not violating double jeopardy here at the state, where we're taxing people and then maybe this is not the correct definition of double jeopardy, but it's where we're taxing people and then asking them to pay for what's competing against them to keep these workers from coming in. But this is not a premonition. This is actually really happening, and this is not about generosity for my comments today. It was about justice, and the justice is that this unemployment system was set up, which was desperately needed last year, but now we don't have an unemployment crisis. We have an employment crisis, and I just am empathizing with the businesses who have struggled so mightily to pay the mortgage and to keep their doors open over the last year, only to see through the other side of it that they can't operate at full capacity because they can't attract workers because the federal government's competing against them.
Thank you, Treasurer Folwell, and I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We look forward to your participation next month.